My name is Eli. I'm just a regular village guy, no family name that opens doors, no university education, no inheritance waiting for me. I earn my keep trimming hedges, fixing roofs, sweeping compounds. One morning, I got a call from an old friend who works security for the famous Chief Adewale, the billionaire oil magnate whose name rings across the continent. Bro, they need someone to clean up the estate garden. Just 2 days. Big pay. But keep your head down, the chief doesn't like strangers talking too much. Of course I said yes. That kind of money could keep food on our table for a month. When I arrived, the iron gates were taller than the church in my town. The compound was so big, I thought I'd stepped into a different country, fountains shaped like lions, cars that looked like spaceships, guards in black suits with earpieces. It didn't feel like Africa. It felt like another planet. I started work with my machete and shears, quietly moving through the overgrown side garden. It was humid. Birds screamed from the palm trees above. Then I saw her. She sat alone in a shaded courtyard, beneath a carved stone statue of an Orisha, her wheelchair partially hidden by vines. She wore a soft yellow wrapper, hair tied up in traditional braids, her eyes locked on me with quiet intensity. She didn't speak at first. Just stared. I quickly looked away, scared I'd already broken a rule. But then, her voice rang out, calm but playful. You're new? Are you here to cut the spirit vines or talk to the spirits themselves? I blinked. What did she mean? I'm just here to trim grass, not speak with ghosts, I said, awkwardly smiling. She laughed, the sound echoed like wind chimes through the courtyard. And that's when I noticed, her legs weren't moving. There were golden braces strapped to her thighs, and beside her was a carved walking staff that looked ceremonial. Ancient. What's your name? She asked suddenly. Eli. From Oloran village. She looked at me strangely. Oloran. That place still exists? I was going to ask what she meant, but just then, 2 guards appeared from the hallway and barked at me. Back to work. No talking with the chief's daughter. And just like that, the moment was over. But something in me had already shifted. Because in that fleeting moment, I saw something in her eyes, pain, yes, but also mystery. As if she held a secret so deep, the soil itself would tremble if it came to light. I didn't know her name yet. I didn't know the curse that surrounded her. But I knew one thing. I would return tomorrow, not just for the money, but for her. The next morning, I returned to the Adewale estate before sunrise. I moved through the misty garden with silent steps, hoping no one would question why I was early. But someone was already there, her. She sat exactly where I'd seen her the day before. Only now, she wore a dark blue wrapper with tiny silver stars embroidered across it. Her wheelchair gleamed like it had been polished that very morning. You came back early, she said, her voice softer now. Most people never come back at all. I needed to finish the side garden, I replied carefully. And I thought maybe we could talk. If that's allowed. She looked down at her legs. Then back up at me. You're the first one to ask. That's when I finally asked her name. Imoni, she said. It means faith. But don't let the name fool you. There's a reason they don't let people talk to me. She reached down and tapped something around her ankle. A bracelet, but not an ordinary one. It was carved from what looked like obsidian and bone, inlaid with red beads. Old. It radiated something strange. This anklet, she whispered, was given to me by my grandmother before she died. They say it's cursed. That as long as I wear it, I'll never walk again. I took a cautious step closer. You believe that? She shrugged. My father does. Which is why he's kept me hidden here. He says he's protecting the family name. But I know the truth. What truth? Before she could answer, a loud whistle pierced the air. 2 guards emerged from the side gate, stomping toward us. Imani rolled her eyes. Show's over. They didn't yell this time. Just glared at me. The chief wants to see you. Now. My heart sank. Had I crossed the line? As I followed them inside the estate, I caught one last glance back at Imani. She was smiling. But it wasn't joy. It was the smile of someone who knows the wolves are watching and smiles anyway. The guards led me through a hallway so long and polished I could see my own reflection stretch across the floor like a ghost. Every painting on the walls seemed to stare at me, thick oil portraits of ancestors with cold, knowing eyes. At the far end, a door opened silently. And there he was. Chief Adewale sat behind a massive ebony desk, his white agbada perfectly pressed, his gold rings glinting in the morning light. A carved lion's head cane rested beside him, not because he needed it, but because it made him look like a king. He didn't invite me to sit. You're early, he said, folding his hands. I admire punctuality in a laborer. I nodded. Yes, sir. He stared at me for a moment. That kind of stare that strips you down layer by layer. You spoke with my daughter. It wasn't a question. It was a verdict. Only briefly, I said, heart pounding. She said hello. He smiled, but it was the kind of smile that makes your blood go cold. Imani is delicate. Curious. Naive. She spent too much time reading books and not enough understanding how the world truly works. I hope you didn't give her any ideas. I didn't know how to answer that. So I stayed silent. That was a mistake. Let me be clear, Chief Adewale said, standing up slowly. You are here to cut hedges, not hearts. He walked around the desk, the lion head cane tapping against the floor with each step. There are traditions in our bloodline older than any country's flag. Our family has expectations. Arrangements. You will not interfere. Then he leaned in, his colon thick and choking. Men like you don't marry into families like mine. They mow the grass, clean the fish ponds, and then disappear. I wanted to speak. To defend myself. But before I could, he turned his back to me. You're dismissed. As I walked out, my chest tight and my fist clenched, I realized something chilling. He wasn't just rich. He was powerful. Feared. And deeply afraid of something. Something about Imani. Or maybe, something about what she could become. Later that week, I was pruning hibiscus near the back of the estate when I saw her again. Imani. She was sitting beneath the old flame tree in her wheelchair, sunlight flickering through the branches, a thick leather-bound book resting in her lap. Not a phone. Not a tablet. A real book, pages worn at the corners, marked with feathers and petals. Our eyes met for a moment. She didn't look away. What's your name? She asked, her voice soft, but confident. Emeka, I said, dropping my clippers. You remembered. She smiled. Of course I did. That afternoon changed everything. We started talking. About small things at first, the weather, the garden, the birds that nested above the fountain. But slowly, carefully, she let me into her world. She was brilliant. Fiercely intelligent. A mind like fire wrapped in silk. But also, trapped. My father doesn't believe I can heal, she said once, almost whispering. He says I'm a symbol of divine punishment. That our ancestors cursed me. I thought she was joking. She wasn't. Then one day, the wind turned a page in her lap and I caught a glimpse of what she'd been writing. Drawings. Diagrams. Notes in ink and charcoal. A hidden journal. Exercises. Meditation patterns. Energy channels mapped along the spine. Scribbles of West African spiritual sigils. Notes in Yoruba and you. You're studying healing. She didn't answer at first. Then she looked me dead in the eyes. I've been training in secret. My father says if I try to stand again, I disgrace the gods. But I think the gods are waiting for me to rise. My mouth went dry. Have you ever stood? Even for a second? She nodded, eyes gleaming. Once. But when my father found out, he locked me inside for 2 weeks. Said I was tempting the spirits. That night, I couldn't sleep. Because deep down, I believed her. I believed she wasn't meant to stay in that chair forever. And somehow, I knew I was meant to help her rise. It was a humid evening. The kind of African night where the clouds press low and the air buzzes with unseen tension. I had just finished trimming the palms near the northern wall when Imoni slipped me a note, folded tight like it was hiding something sacred. Tonight, it read. Come to the East Courtyard. Midnight. Don't speak. Just follow. My heart jumped and sank at once. The East Courtyard was dangerously close to her father's private quarters. If we got caught. Still, I went. How could I not? At exactly midnight, I crept through the moonlit garden. The estate was eerily silent, except for the hiss of wind through banana leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. The air smelled of rain and old incense. When I reached the courtyard, I saw her, Imoni, standing. Her arms were trembling. Her face was drenched in sweat. But she wasn't in her chair. Emeka, she whispered, barely able to hold herself up. I've been practicing. For weeks. Alone. I rushed to her side, ready to catch her, but she held up a hand. Don't help me. Just be here. She took another step. Wobbly. Shaky. But a step. And then another. And then, she fell into my arms. Not because she was weak. Because she trusted me to be there. We didn't speak. We just stayed like that for a moment, the smell of frangipani in the air, the sound of her heart pounding in sync with mine. And then, we heard it. Footsteps. Heavy ones. Her father's voice echoed like a curse through the stone hall behind us. Who is out there? We froze. She grabbed my wrist. Hide. I ducked behind the mango ends just as Chief Adewale burst through the arch. He looked around with fury in his eyes, a cigar still smoldering in one hand. Imoni, he barked. Why are you out of your chair? She stammered. Lied. Said she'd heard a noise. Said she was trying to protect herself. Anything but the truth. I held my breath. The chief stepped forward, eyeing the space I was hiding in. For a moment, I thought he'd see me, drag me out and end everything right there. But the gods must have been with us that night. He turned and stormed off. Imoni collapsed into her chair, her hands shaking. He can't find out, she whispered. If he does, he'll destroy you. I should have run then. I should have backed out and let her go. But instead, I looked her in the eyes and said, "Then we don't let him find out. And we keep walking. Together." After that night, I couldn't stop thinking about what almost happened. Imani walking again should have been a miracle, a celebration. But in this house, it felt like a crime. A secret too dangerous to share. The next day, I returned to my work as if nothing had happened. But something had changed. Her father started watching me closely. He asked strange questions, made sudden appearances. Once, I found one of his men going through my tool shed, pretending to look for termites. I knew what was happening. He suspected something. So when Imani passed me a second note, this time, tucked into a bundle of laundry, I read it with trembling fingers. "Meet me tonight. There's something you need to see. Something my father hides under the house." My blood ran cold. That night, under the cover of darkness, I followed her through the servant tunnels behind the estate. We passed old murals, worn masks, and rusted locks until we reached a stone door I'd never seen before. She pulled a key from around her neck. "He doesn't know I have this," she whispered. When the door creaked open, I smelled earth, rot, and incense. The air was thick, ancient. We stepped into a chamber lit by old oil lanterns. On the walls were carvings, faces twisted in agony and symbols I didn't understand. At the center, a large black stone altar stood. Chains hung from the ceiling. Bones, human bones, were stacked along the far wall. "This is where he brings the healers," she said. "He says he's cleansing me." But I heard them scream. I was drugged, but I still remember. They never walked out. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. He tried to fix me through ritual. Blood magic. Not doctors. Not medicine. But this. Suddenly, it made sense. His obsession with controlling her. His fear of her independence. If she walked again, the magic failed. The curse broke. The shame returned. That's why he feared me. Not because I was poor, but because I loved her enough to heal her without fear, without payment, without gods. I looked at her. At the woman standing strong in the shadows of her father's madness. "We have to leave," I said. "Before he decides to finish what he started." She nodded. But her face said it all. There's something else. One more thing he's hiding. And if we don't stop it, the others will suffer too. We barely slept that night. The shadows in the mansion felt heavier. The silence between the walls was thick with secrets. The next morning, Imani handed me an old leather-bound journal, the kind that smelled like smoke and time. "It belonged to my grandfather," she whispered. But my father added his own pages. I flipped through the pages. Symbols. Names. Dates. Blood-stained diagrams. Then I saw it, the emblem burned into the back cover, a serpent eating its own tail, surrounded by 12 eyes. "The Serpent Society," Imani said. They promised him power, influence, wealth. All he had to offer was me. I looked at her, stunned. "What do you mean?" "When I was born," she said, voice shaking, "they told him I was special. That I had a sacred defect, a spiritual imbalance that could anchor their magic. My disability wasn't a flaw to them. It was a gift to exploit." I felt sick. Every ritual. Every healer. Every lie about cures, it wasn't for me, she continued. It was to keep their spell going. As long as I couldn't walk, their power remained. So what happens now that you can? She looked at me with haunted eyes. The spell is broken. And when they find out, they'll come. Not just for me, but for you too. I clutched the journal tight. This wasn't just about love anymore. It was about survival. We needed to disappear, but first, I had to understand the extent of the danger. There's a meeting tonight, she said. They gather in the hills outside the city. My father's going. He always wears that red robe with the gold serpent stitching. If you follow him, you'll see the truth for yourself. And so I did. That night, under the cover of darkness, I stole one of the old estate motorbikes and tailed his convoy from a distance, weaving through the jungle roads until I reached the cliffs near Ibadan. What I saw chilled my blood. Torches. Masks. Chanting. And at the center, Chief Adewale, wearing a crown of thorns and a serpent robe, holding a bowl of black liquid that moved on its own. We have lost balance, he shouted to the cult. The girl walks again. The pact is dying. Behind him, the 12 elders nodded in fury. And then one of them asked the question that confirmed everything. Did the outsider touch her spirit? Did he love her with truth? Adewale hesitated, then nodded. The entire gathering hissed like serpents. I fled before they could sense me. I knew now, they wouldn't stop until I was gone. I raced back to the mansion with my heart beating like war drums. I knew we didn't have much time. Imoni was waiting for me in the garden, her hands trembling as she clutched a small travel bag. You saw it, didn't you? She whispered. Everything, I said. Your father, he's deeper in this than I imagined. And now they know about me. Then we run. We packed quickly. I stashed the journal beneath my shirt, knowing it was the only leverage we had. Imoni grabbed a few essentials and hid her walking cane inside a hollowed-out box, just in case. Before we left, she insisted on saying goodbye to one person. Grace, her childhood nanny, the only person who ever truly loved her in that cursed house. Grace lived in the servant quarters, far from the grand rooms of the estate. A quiet woman with sad eyes and hands always busy with something humble, folding, sweeping, blessing. She helped me hide the first time I tried to run, Imoni said. She won't betray us. But Grace wasn't alone. When we opened the door, Chief Adewale was already there, sitting in the dark, stroking his serpent ring with a look colder than death. You disappoint me, daughter. Imoni froze. I stepped in front of her, fist clenched, but he didn't even flinch. You thought you could undo a pact sealed in blood with a little romance, he sneered. You think love breaks ancient magic. He stood up slowly, and behind him, Grace looked away in shame. You told him. Imoni whispered, voice breaking. Grace couldn't even meet her eyes. They threatened to blind me, she mumbled. To curse my children. I had no choice. My stomach twisted. We had walked into a trap. Adewale motioned with 2 fingers, and 3 masked men entered the room, long robes, no faces, holding ropes and bags. Take the boy, he said. And cleanse the girl. I didn't think. I grabbed the lamp from the table and smashed it into the closest man's face. Fire erupted. Screaming. Chaos. I pulled Imoni by the hand, and we ran. Through the corridor. Down the servant stairs. Out into the rain. Bullets tore through the night behind us. One grazed my leg. But we didn't stop. We ran until the estate lights were gone. Until it was just the trees, the thunder, and the ghost of betrayal still clinging to Imoni's tear-streaked cheeks. The rain came down like knives, slicing through the dense African night as we stumbled through the forest, soaked, bruised, and breathless. My leg was bleeding. Imani was limping. Every root felt like a trap. Every sound in the dark felt like it carried the voice of her father's men. We collapsed near a baobab tree, hidden beneath its massive roots. I could barely stay conscious. "Stay awake," Imani begged. "Please." But I was sleeping, cold creeping up my spine. That's when we heard the whispering. Not voices, not wind, something older. A presence. From the shadows, a flickering light appeared, a lantern, swaying in the grip of an ancient woman draped in layers of colorful, tattered cloth. Her skin was weathered like cracked bark. Her eyes, milky white. Blind, but somehow all-seeing. "You carry a cursed seed," she rasped, her voice like sand and smoke. "And she walks because the ancestors weep." Imani stood in front of me, shielding my body with her own. "We mean no harm," she said. "We just need shelter." The old woman stared at us both, sniffed the air like a hunting dog. "Follow, or die. Choice is yours." We followed. She led us deeper into the forest, through a path that didn't exist until she stepped upon it. Her hut was nothing more than woven branches and bones, yet it stood strong in the heart of the woods. Inside, charms hung from every rafter. Skulls, beads, feathers. The scent of burning roots filled the air. She placed me on a mat and poured something bitter down my throat. I screamed. Fire erupted in my chest. My eyes rolled back. And then I saw it, a vision. Chief Adewale, years ago, in a hidden shrine. Standing over a cradle containing baby Imani, whispering in a dead language, offering her soul for wealth and land. Her legs were taken. His empire grew. The ritual was sealed with blood. I woke up choking, gasping for breath. "You saw it," the old woman said. "The pact. The chains. Is there a way to break it?" She looked at Imani. "There always is. But it will cost." "What?" Imani asked, voice shaking. The woman leaned close. "Everything." The hut was dead silent after the old woman spoke. "Everything." Imani echoed, her voice barely a whisper. The forest witch turned away and began mixing herbs into a thick, black paste. The flames in the clay pots around the hut flickered higher with each word she muttered in her strange dialect. "Your father didn't just buy his fortune with gold," she said. "He fed the land. Gave part of you to the spirits. That's why your legs failed. That's why you were caged." I felt my blood go cold. Imani stood paralyzed. "So how do we undo it?" I asked, sitting up despite the pain. "How do we free her?" The woman turned back to us, her milky eyes glowing with firelight. "Blood must be returned." "His blood." Imani recoiled. "You want us to kill him?" The witch shook her head slowly. "No. But you must make him see. Make him confess what he did. Break the silence. Shame is the rope that holds the curse tight. Only truth can unravel it." I looked at Imani. Her lips were trembling, but her eyes were sharp with new resolve. "I do it," she said. "I make him face what he did. But, would they let me back in that house alive?" The woman pulled a small wooden charm from the folds of her robe, a crude carving of a tree with two faces on either side. "This will protect you, but only if your heart is clean." She placed it in Imani's hand. "Go before the sun returns. The spirits are with you until dawn." We didn't sleep that night. We didn't eat. We held hands beneath the dark branches and whispered our truths. I told her I had fallen in love with her before I ever heard her speak. She told me no man had ever looked at her without pity, until me. And as the first light cracked over the horizon, we stood up together. Imani, still limping, but strong. Me, still bleeding, but burning. We walk into the lion's den now, I said. You ready? No, she said, clutching the charm. But I'm done crawling. The sun was rising fast as we approached the gates of Chief Adewole's mansion. Armed guards stood tall in their uniforms, eyes narrowed. But Imani walked straight up to them, shoulders back, chin high, legs trembling but moving with purpose. I am the daughter of this house, she declared. Let me pass. They hesitated. One reached for his radio. If my father dares to stop me, she continued, her voice sharper than a blade, then let him come do it himself. That made them freeze. No one ever spoke about a chief like that. Then, they moved aside. The gates creaked open. Imani entered first. I followed close, the witch's warning burning in my ears, truth is the key. But shame must open the door. Inside, the compound was as grand and cold as ever. White marble floors. Gold statues. Servants scurried out of view like shadows fleeing light. Then we saw him. Chief Adewole. Standing in his embroidered robes, hands clasped behind his back, flanked by two advisors. His face, calm as stone. Imani, he said. Why have you come here dressed in defiance and dragging filth with you? She didn't flinch. Instead, she stepped forward and held out the wooden charm the forest witch had given her. I came for truth, she said. You owe it. To me. To the spirits. And to the dead. His smile vanished. The room thickened with silence. You were born broken, he said flatly. You should thank me for all I've done. I was born cursed, she snapped. Because you made a deal. Tell them. She pointed to the staff gathering around, whispering. A few neighbors had entered the open courtyard, watching. Tell them what you gave up to get your oil empire, she said, her voice rising. Tell them why your only child couldn't walk until she left you. The chief's lip twitched. His hand trembled just slightly. You know nothing of what I sacrificed. I was the sacrifice, she shouted. Gasps echoed around us. One of the guards took a step back. And then something happened. The marble under Imani's feet began to crack. Not from weight, but from heat. The sunlight streaming in through the windows turned blood red, like the spirits themselves were listening. The chief stumbled backward, eyes wide. I did what I had to, he screamed. I gave them a child's legs, not her life. I built this nation from nothing. You built it from me, she said quietly. And now I'm taking it back. The moment the truth left Imani's lips, it was as if something ancient stirred. The skies above the mansion dimmed, despite it being morning. A low wind swept through the open courtyard, curling around our legs like a serpent tasting the air. People had gathered now, neighbors, local elders, even journalists who somehow arrived fast as if drawn by unseen hands. Whispers swirled in every direction. He sacrificed his own daughter. Is that why she couldn't walk? That's not just betrayal, that's spiritual treason. Chief Adewole stood frozen, mouth slightly agape, his face pale with rage and fear. Sweat beaded on his temples. His power, once unshakable, now teetered on the edge of ruin. You don't understand how it was back then, he muttered, but no one believed him anymore. Imani turned to the crowd, her voice steady. He made a pact with spirits in the river. Gave them my legs in exchange for oil riches. I lived broken so he could live like a king. Gasps. Shouts. Phones recording. Then Imani looked directly at her father. But love broke your curse. And now your time is up. At that moment, a tremor rippled through the ground, not violent, but deliberate. The trees beyond the fence rustled though there was no wind. The mansion's lights flickered. The sky turned a deep reddish gray. People looked up, shielding their eyes. And then, the river spirit came. No one saw it at first. But the shadows near the fountain in the courtyard deepened unnaturally. Water began to rise upward, spiraling like a serpent into the shape of a woman with long flowing hair made of river weeds, her eyes glowing gold. She floated toward Chief Adewale. You promised us 25 years of silence, she said, her voice like thunder in a dream. But your daughter spoke. Now we collect. The chief fell to his knees, pleading. Please. I gave you what you asked. And now she walks. Which means the debt is void, the spirit said, coldly. So now, we take what was truly owed. She raised her hand. And Chief Adewale screamed. Chief Adewale's scream wasn't just from fear, it was from something deeper. It sounded like his soul was tearing apart. As the river spirit's hand hovered over him, a glow surged from his chest, like a second heart being yanked loose. His body contorted, hands clawing at his embroidered robe, his gold chains falling uselessly to the marble floor. People scattered, some shouting prayers, others filming with trembling hands. The spirit didn't move fast. She didn't need to. Her power dripped from every gesture. She stared into the eyes of the man who once thought he could buy the world with blood and secrets. You traded your child's life force for oil, gold, and kingship, she said, her voice echoing unnaturally. But love is a stronger magic. And now your throne turns to dust. With that, the spirit clapped once. A shockwave burst from her palms, silent, invisible, but devastating. The walls of the mansion cracked from ceiling to floor. Statues shattered. The grand chandelier came crashing down behind the chief, missing him by inches. But that wasn't the true damage. On every newsfeed, every TV screen, every phone, documents began to leak. Pacts signed in blood. Financial records hidden offshore. Names of villagers whose homes were buried to make way for oil rigs. Pictures of rituals performed in secret chambers beneath the estate. The mansion's security system, hacked. The chief's sins, no longer hidden. Imani clutched my hand tightly. Her lips trembled, not in fear, but in awe. She's undoing everything, she whispered. And you're the reason, I said. You broke the curse with your heart. The river spirit turned to Imani now. Her glow softened. You are whole again, she said. But your journey has only begun. The world knows your name now, daughter of power. Walk wisely. And just like that, she vanished. No puff of smoke. No lightning. Just gone. Chief Adewale collapsed, unconscious. Broken. Powerless. Paramedics were called, but no one rushed. The people had seen his true face. The next morning, the sky over Lagos looked different. Brighter, somehow. As if even the sun was relieved that Chief Adewale's shadow had lifted. News anchors couldn't stop talking. Former oil tycoon exposed in ritual scandal. Daughter walks again, a love story or a curse broken. Who is the young man beside Imani? Imani and I sat together on the rooftop of her late mother's garden villa. Her hair was blowing softly in the breeze. She still looked tired, emotionally drained, but there was something new in her eyes. Power. Not the kind bought with gold, but the kind earned through pain, through rebirth. She looked at me, then down at her legs. She stretched them out slowly, flexing her toes like someone rediscovering their own body. "Do you realize," she said, "I haven't felt this free since I was a little girl." "You fought for it," I replied. "And you won." But not everyone saw it that way. Imani's phone buzzed endlessly. Reporters, former business partners of her father, angry royal families, greedy pastors who'd once praised Chief Adewale in sermons, now begging to distance themselves from his name. Some begged her to take control of his empire. "You're the heir now," they said. "You can fix everything." Others wanted her gone. Silenced. Forgotten. But Imani didn't flinch. She walked into her father's office that afternoon, past the broken security doors, the shattered portraits, the smell of smoke and incense still clinging to the air. She opened his vault. Inside were ledgers, titles, deeds, rituals, names enough to control half the continent if she chose to. But she didn't. Instead, she set them all on the ground. Poured kerosene across the room. Lit a single match. And watched the fire consume it all. "No more thrones built on blood," she said. The fire that destroyed Chief Adewale's empire wasn't just physical, it was symbolic. Flames danced behind us as Imani and I walked away from the mansion. Not a word was spoken between us for a while. She held my hand tighter than ever before, as if grounding herself in the only truth that mattered now. She had chosen her own path. The world was still buzzing. News helicopters circled overhead. Social media exploded with footage of the burning estate. People were divided, some furious at the loss of power and wealth, others celebrating Imani as a hero, a liberator. But she didn't care for any of it. We disappeared for a while. Moved to a quiet village by the river, one her father had nearly destroyed decades ago for his pipelines. The elders welcomed Imani with open arms. They remembered her mother. They remembered her grandfather, a man of peace before the curse of greed consumed the family line. Imani opened a free clinic for disabled children. I helped her run it. Word spread quickly. Not about riches. Not about thrones. But about a young woman who walked again. Who used her second chance not for revenge or control, but for healing. For good. And me. I stayed by her side. Proud. Humbled. In love. One day, while watching the sunset bleed into the river, she turned to me and whispered, "You were never just a chapter in my story, you were the reason I kept writing." Tears filled my eyes. I kissed her hand and said, "And you're the reason I believe in miracles." We got married quietly, no paparazzi, no diamond chandeliers. Just friends, family, village drums, and laughter echoing under the stars. And though we had no palace, no corporate towers, we had something far stronger: truth, love, and a future built not on secrets, but on trust. If you're reading this wondering if love can really change someone's life, it can. I watched it heal her body. I watched it burn an empire. And I live every day grateful that she chose me, a nobody, over everything the world expected her to become. Choose love. Choose truth. And never let fear keep you from helping someone walk again, even if that means standing up to giants.